Hi Trisha.
Hi, Richard.
Toby's
Yeah,
not in yet, is it?
yeah. I think he should be in sometime. In sometime, he's pinging me on the messenger.
Ah, okay.
Um, just one question. I pinged in the group as well. The session name is nine anti patterns and six imperatives. I think it should be Agile Transformation Leadership. This is the subtitle actually. Can we change it now?
I don't think so at this point it will be possible.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Hi Toby. How are
Hey, Vijay.
you?
Good to see you again. Hi, Tusha.
Hi, Toby.
Vijay was my host last time,
Okay.
and we've stayed in touch throughout.
True, true, true.
So, question: how do I change my background? Is that possible?
Nope.
Well, some people are. Oh man, my room is a mess. Okay,
That's fine. It looks good. Don't worry.
okay. Um, all right. So let me try to share my screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Toby. It's
Okay,
visible.
awesome. Now, what will happen is I have two screens. I'm sharing my second screen to you so that it's non-disturbed, and then I have my monitor here. It may be difficult for me to, I don't know, to check the chat messages as well as. So if there are only two, I think two places where I'm asked for chat. So in the interest of time, just if one of you just read a few, like don't
Yeah.
read all of them, just read a few. And the second help I need is um, I've set an alarm, but maybe around 11, so not 11 my time. So half an hour, after half an hour, and maybe 15 minutes before, maybe give some sort of an indication. Maybe just put something in chat, not session chat, but direct the other chat. So it will just ping, so I will know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So half an
one
hour before and 15
suggestion.
minutes before. Yeah.
Understood. Toby, if we put it in the chat, it will be visible to everyone. What I would suggest is on our video, which will give you an indication that it's half an hour.
Yeah. No, what I was saying,
Yeah.
don't use the session chat. Use the
Mhm.
conference chat.
Okay, the
Yeah.
direct chat. Okay,
The direct.
okay,
So it'll just give a ping, so I know exactly what it is.
okay.
Okay. I should be okay, but just in case, just
Sure.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So let me try to move my slides and make sure that works. Uh, okay. You're still able to see, right?
Yes, Toby.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Okay. So I think we are good.
Uh,
We'll just wait.
just
And who is introducing me?
I can do that, Toby.
Okay. Okay.
Twisha will be to be. I will have to step out in between to handle another session because
Okay.
there are two other.
What?
Uh,
No love for me, Vijaya?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to do that, but
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
I know.
Trisha and
Don't
I
worry.
connected very well, so I think we're good. So
uh,
I prefer to take questions in the end, Trisha.
mhm.
I hope to run through. There's a lot of material, so I hope to run through them pretty quickly. How many people registered?
There's no registration as such. I think people can hop in
Okay, yeah, there
whenever.
was a mistake with as you were saying, the topic is Agile Transformation Leadership,
Uh,
but then they just said nine anti patterns and six imperatives. So that may throw people off, but we'll see. It is, and if I had registered earlier, I would have caught it earlier, but yeah, it's okay. It is what it is. We learn. Awesome. And will the video be available afterwards, after the event
mm,
is over? Okay.
yes, yes, Toby. The recordings will be available.
Okay. And Twisha, I already sent you the slide deck. Okay. So you should be
Hmm.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, Toby.
Okay.
We
So it's
already have 16 people in, but I guess we
okay.
can wait for 2 more minutes maybe to get
Okay.
started.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll go off video for one quick second to make sure my hair looks good. I'll be right back.
Sure. I'll just reload my screen. I think Nanda confirmed that the topic name is changed. I'll just reload and check whether that's done.
Perfect. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. Thank you, Payal. Thank you, Sheikh.
Toby, we've changed the topic name as well.
Oh, thank you so much. You're very kind.
Okay. Um, okay, so we're already past 8 by 1 minute. Maybe we could get started. So, welcome everyone to this session on Agile Transformation Leadership. We have Toby with us today. Toby is an Agile leader, speaker, and community builder. He's based out of Washington, D.C., and he specializes in areas of strategic Agile transformation, change management, program management, and organizational development. He's also the founder and principal of Torah Solutions and has around 20 plus years of experience in IT, commerce, banking, mortgage, and variety of other fields. He's worked with quite a few, great companies out there and has been advisor to organizations such as Deloitte, JP Morgan, CGI, and various other US federal agencies. We're so lucky to have you here today. Talk for us, Toby. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Twisha, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We will go ahead and get started. So, the topic for today is Agile Transformation Leadership, 9 anti patterns and 6 imperatives. So, let's go ahead and get started. Um, a little bit more background. Thank you, Twisha, for an excellent introduction. So, here's the infographic, shows my journey. Especially from the agile perspective. Before that, I was serving as a traditional waterfall project manager, and I think the breakthrough happened between 2005 and 2008 when I became a Scrum Master, and then I've played various roles. I've played Scrum Master. I've played the role of release train engineer, product manager for some time while I was covering for somebody's maternity leave, and then I moved into more coaching, team level coaching, and then enterprise level coaching. And last year, just before last year, I was serving as a senior director of Agile for a company called Ventera. And then I decided to venture out on my own. So since last year, I started this company called Torah Solutions. I really spend a lot of my personal time and money to make sure that I'm continuously learning. And some of the certifications that I've earned are displayed here on the screen as well. With that, let's
Um,
go ahead and get started.
so,
Yes,
Toby, 1 second. We were not seeing the infographic actually. If you could switch to that.
you are not. Are you not seeing the screen?
No, it's still on the regional Scrum gathering slide.
Oh,
Um,
really? Okay, bear with me a second. I uh, okay. Um, okay, I shared the screen now. What do you see now? You see, do you see
and
a person with a monocular?
yes.
Okay, let me make sure that. Okay, I see what happened. Bear with me. Okay,
Oh, I think some people on the chat told that they were able to see the slides.
okay. It's Murphy's law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Um, Now, are you able to see?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so starting trouble. No worries. Thank you for catching that, and thank you everybody for the feedback. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Um, so agile transformation. So our session today is focused on agile transformation. So what is agile transformation? Agile transformation is uh, a huge investment. It is something that organizations do when they want to move from other formats of developing software or developing products and services, and they're moving to a more agile way of doing things. It can be IT, it can be non-IT, and in the last 2 3 years, we have seen that a lot of transformation is happening even in the non-IT space. But irrespective, it is a journey, and throughout this journey, so many different changes have to happen, and you're basically moving from one way of working to a new way of working, and it basically requires a mindset change, right? And at least my experience, all the agile transformations that I've been part of, uh, all of them have been tough. None of them are similar. There are always going to be challenges, and there's always going to be so many obstacles that come in the way. And there are so many different reasons why transformations fail, despite having the best strategy, having the best roadmap, having the best people on your team. A lot of times these problems, impediments that happen, a lot of them are linked to the lack of leadership participation. At least what I have seen in a lot of the transformations that I've been part of is that a lot of times leaders, they fund the transformation, they choose the right people to lead it, and they feel that it is just like another project. It's just like another project where they can assign the people and give the funding and walk off and expect the things to happen. Unfortunately, transformation is not one of those things. Transformation is something where leadership has to be more involved right from the beginning all the way to the end. And today's topic is focused on that. What is the leadership's role, and what happens if they don't play the role? And times have changed. 5 6 years ago, the way organizations work versus how they work today is different. And for you to be relevant in today's professional world, if you don't lead the change is going to lead you. you know is so many changes that are happening in the marketplace, and we're going to talk more about it. Unless you're constantly changing, you will get changed. So it is better to be in a position where you are proactively making the changes, and this is where leadership plays an extremely important role. Now, all of us know that transformation is not easy, right? There are so many things that can happen. It's it's very, very complex. It is very, very complicated. There are so many challenges that can happen. There are so many moving parts, very similar to the picture that you see here. There are so many changes happening, and you have to be on top of it. Now, from the audience, who here has experienced a transformation initiative that went south? And what do you think are the reasons for that? Please put your response in the chat window. Why do you think transformations either struggle, or they fail, or they completely go flat? What have you experienced? Let's hear a couple of responses here. Mindset, yes. Leadership as waterfall mentality, yes. Yashoda, no support from leadership or inadequate support. Push versus pull, don't have the vision, goal. Lack of intent, yes. Sandeep. um, Lack of understanding. Resistance, that's a big one, yes. Yes, everybody wants delivery, right? And one of my leaders used to say, we are painting the train as it's moving, right? The train is not stopping. So organizations don't stop all their operations and say, okay, let's take 2 years and let's transform, right? They're still producing value, they're still producing the services and products, and they're trying to transform at the same time. So it is extremely difficult. So what gets in the way? The question arises is, what gets in the way? So every year there is a state of Agile report that comes out around this time. So the 16th report should be coming. I've been checking my inbox every day. It should be coming out, but this is from last year. And state of Agile report, the survey goes globally across all countries. And from last year's report, what they found is that in the top 5 or 6, there are two that are directly attributed to leadership and management, right? So it's not enough leadership participation, as some of you have put in your chat, and then inadequate management support and sponsorship. So these two things are extremely important, without which a change cannot happen. A lot of change is top driven, right? It has to be initiated from the top. And when I say it's top driven, it doesn't mean that the leadership should just basically say, hey, from tomorrow we are agile. It doesn't work that way, right? The whole roadmap has to be thought through properly, prioritized, funded, and led. And this is where the gaps happen. So my question to you is, what is a leader's role in agile transformation? What is their role? Can you please put it in chat? Hey, Prem Prakash, I can send you the link for the 15th annual report, or you can just Google it and you can find it. Yeah, so leader, yes, guiding, be ready to accept the charge, be the driving force, transparency, advocacy, excellent, create trust, very good, yes, support, yep, hold the vision for transformation, empowering the team, decision maker, yeah, collaborative decision maker, yes, enabling agile, empowering, be empathetic. Oh, that is so good, Mangesh. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so yeah, we have quite a few good ones here. So yes, so that is the role of leaders, right? You all nailed it. Those are the things that are expected from leaders. Now, have you heard of this acronym called VUCA? And VUCA, I'm sure some of you have heard about it, but let me explain what it is. VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So, what does that mean? What it means is that changes are happening at a rapid pace, and there's a lot of change happening at the same time. So that's volatility, right? Often you hear about volatility with the stock market or housing market, etc., which means that a lot of change is happening too quickly and it's difficult to keep up with it. So what can leaders do to ensure that when situation is volatile, they can lead better? They do that by setting the vision, right? And some of you had put in the chat. They help by creating a vision and making sure that the vision is shared across, so that irrespective of the storms which are coming, they know, okay, here's the direction in which we are going. The next is uncertainty, right? There is, whenever any transformation takes place, there's going to be a lot of chaos, there's going to be a lot of noise, and that's when leadership need to make sure that they create a shared understanding of, hey, we are here today, we're going to take about a year and a half through this transformation, and our end goal, we want to be this is what we are trying to achieve. So creating that understanding is going to be extremely important, and this is what leaders can do. The next is complexity, right? Complexity simply is so many different small problems that kind of get together and kind of intermingle and then become one huge problem. And then when you're trying to solve the problem, you don't really know what to solve first, because is the the combined force of small problems. So often you might have heard death by a thousand cuts, right? And that's what comes from complexity. So the leader's role in that is to bring clarity, right? To really understand the root cause, really assess the situation, and help the middle level management by giving them clarity and giving them also like the empowerment to solve those problems, right? And the last but not least is ambiguity, right? This ambiguity, just think of it as fog. There's a lot of fog. Have you ever experienced that you're driving and there's so much fog that you cannot even see the signal in front of you or the vehicle in front of you, and then that can lead to accidents or making the wrong moves. And that can happen in organizations where things are not clear. We don't know. There's just so much confusion. So what needs to happen, or what leaders can do, is to to help promote agility. So what happens with agility? You are working on a few things at a time which are of the highest priority, and you are delivering results in a more iterative manner. So ambiguity definitely plays a role because a lot of things are unclear. But then the leaders can help to say, hey, here are the 5 things we are focused on for the next quarter. Let's focus on this. And they kind of set the direction, and which is aligned to the vision, of course. But by through agility, a lot of these problems can be solved as well. Now, I talked about transformation being huge. There are so many things happening. The whole organization is changing. um, One of the things that at least I have experienced is something called change fatigue. People get really tired when a lot of change is happening at the same time. And what leaders can do to kind of mitigate the challenges that come from change fatigue is to treat transformation not as an event, but as a journey, right? Don't try to do like a big bang change. Big bang changes fail. So taking small iterative steps to do the transformation, and really thinking from the perspective of the people, because any transformation involves 3 different things: people, process, and technology. A lot of times organizations and leaders are very focused on the process and technology, but don't pay enough attention to the people side of change. And this is where leaders really need to kind of empathize. Somebody put empathy in the chat message earlier. So empathy is very important. So what is empathy? So empathy and sympathy are different, right? Empathy is when you are feeling something with somebody, and sympathy really is that you are actually feeling sorry for how a person is feeling. So when leaders roll up their sleeves and work with the teams and with the middle management layer, they actually are also experiencing some of these challenges, and they are better able to relate to these problems. And therefore, when they create and share the vision, they set the expectations, and they lead in a supportive way. So so that is very important, and I think this point will become very clear in the next slide. And this is one of my favorite slides, so I hope it will send the message across. So there are 3 phases of change. I was in an earlier presentation, and somebody had some change management related slides there, and it made a lot of sense. And that person was also speaking about how things suddenly become chaotic when change is introduced. So the current state is where you are operating today. This is where you're operating. For example, let's say your company is making 100 widgets per day, and the market has a demand for 300 per day, right? There's a potential to sell 300 per day, but you're only producing 100. And then what happens is, the after the market survey and everything else, the leadership makes a decision to import a German made machine, and going to say, okay, we're going to change our machine, and we're going to move from 100 to 200 widgets per day. So what happens is that the people who are used to producing that 100 widgets per day, they are used to a certain rhythm, they are used to certain processes. They know it's not perfect, but they're very comfortable, right? It's a state of comfort where they're very comfortable there. Now, with the new machine in place, everybody has to go through training, everybody has to go through new ways of working, and they have to sometimes unlearn some of the things they had done before and learn new ways of doing things. And because the future state, right, they some people might be thinking, oh, they got this new machine from Germany, maybe they're going to lay off some of us, or hey, they just doubled our production, I don't know what's going to happen next, maybe they're going to ask us to produce 300. So there's going to be a lot of chatter, there's going to be a lot of uncomfort there. So during the transition stage, there is typically a lot of stress and anxiety because people don't know what the future is bringing for them. So my question is, what is leadership's role, right? What is the leadership's role in this? And when I say leaders, I don't mean, the CEOs and the CTOs. Anybody who's leading the transformation is a leader, in my opinion. So when I say leaders, please don't think that it's those people who are in the corner office with the beautiful view. The leaders is everybody who's helping to move through this transformation, and it is their job to make sure they are helping the people through this transition state. They are making sure that the vision for the future state is clear and help the people around this time, which involves listening to their concerns, listening to the fears of the people, empathizing with them, building trust, and communicating with them. Very simple things in words, but it's difficult to do sometimes, right? Because you are doing your daytime job, you are doing everything else. Your job itself is stressful, but then unless you spend time with the people who are going through the change, the transformation is not going to go well. So this is the three phases of change, and just please remember, from the current state to the future state, everything that comes in between, this is where it's extremely important for leaders to help. Now let's jump to some of the things that go wrong, the anti patterns. So, what are anti patterns? So, anti patterns are like a simple way of understanding what an anti pattern is. Anti patterns are practices that might have developed organically in organizations. Some people might think that these practices are very helpful, they help people and the organization to move forward, but in reality it slows down progress, or sometimes it can impede progress as well. And it's important to, from time to time, always look for what the anti patterns may be and catch them in the right time and kind of mitigate and resolve them. But it starts with, first of all, identifying what these anti patterns are. So I'm going to share with you 9 anti-patterns that I have picked up from real life experience, from working on multiple transformations myself. These are not from a book, or not copy pasted from somewhere. These are from my personal experience. Now, each transformation is different. Each organization is different. So the anti-patterns in your organization might be slightly different than what I'm presenting, but these, I think, cover a lot of ground. All right, are you curious to see what these anti-patterns are? Let's get started. So the first one: not budgeting or funding the transformation right, not having enough, not thinking through the whole roadmap, and not having enough money. And we're going to talk more about it, so I'm going to not go too deep into this. But if you don't have the money, you don't have the funding secure, chances are, halfway through the transformation or during the transformation, um, things are, the transformation is going to lose steam. The next is not doing enough to communicate inspire, and motivate. Some of you put in the chat, a leader's job is to motivate, it is to communicate. And if leaders are not doing that, if they think that they can just outsource transformation, just like any other project, okay, we've given the funding, we've have the people, all right, let me focus on something else. But if they are not communicating and inspiring, then transformation is going to fail. So the middle phase that we talked about, where people are feeling the chaos, there is a value of depression, that's the time where leaders need to pay more attention. Next is not setting the transformation vision. Now, unless the people who are going through the transformation understand and buy in into the why are we changing? Now, the same example of 100 widgets to 200 widgets, if the leaders tell them that, listen, we are planning to have a huge expansion, all of you are going to grow, there is a huge demand for these widgets, and we have the ability to become more efficient by changing some of the processes and bringing in new tools and training you. Imagine your growth, how much is going to happen when the company grows. And in future we want to go to 300. If they set the vision, people will get buy-in and they will actually be engaged. Next is using a command and control style of management. This is the old style of management where leaders basically tell people what to do. The teams are not self-organized. They basically tell them what to do. And you know that that doesn't work, right? Agile has better ways. And then resistance. Any kind of change that happens, there is going to be resistance. And unless you are being proactive and kind of nipping things in the bud when resistance happens, unless you are doing that constantly, you are going to get bombarded with resistance, and you will see that your progress will get stalled. So leadership plays an important role in making sure that they're proactive with resistance. Some of the resistance they can block themselves, and some of it they support their teams and the frontline managers in doing that. And then I don't have to go very deep in this. I talked about this earlier. You cannot think of just outsourcing leadership to a team or a group of people. Leaders should be involved. And then not empowering the transformation team. If the leaders want to make each and every decision themselves, and if they are not giving adequate power to the transformation team, things are going to slow down, right? They're going to slow down. The transformation team is not going to feel that they are empowered. They feel that every little decision has to be made by the leadership. So there is a need to decentralize some of the decision making. Have a conversation, create working agreements between you all, but be clear on what decisions can the transformation team make and what needs to be escalated. If there is clarity, it just makes it easier. And second to last is ignoring the culture. Now, each organization is going to have a different culture. You're going to have the best strategy in the world, but if your culture is not going to be conducive to the transformation, you are going to fail. So, doing a study of the transformation, so of the organization, and really utilizing some of the change management models which are there, and we're going to talk about one of them later today. But OCM, or organizational change management, is going to be important here. And last but not least is failing to promote learning. Now, when a change is introduced and things go south, this is where leaders need to invest money and time and people in making sure that the teams are getting coaching, they're getting training, they are learning new ways of doing things. If they were doing things a certain way, and now for us to reach and meet our future objectives, we have to do things in a different way. They have to be taught how to work in a new way. So you were using 100 widgets using some manual tools, and now you have a German made machine which is really really fast and effective, but you have to learn how to operate that machine. You have to learn how to fix the machine, and unless you train the people, they will not be able to do that. So here are the 9 anti-patterns. If you want, please take a screenshot. We will share the slides with you, but if you want to keep a copy of this for immediate use, you can take a quick screenshot. Okay, now that we have learned about the anti-patterns, now is the time to look at the 6 imperatives. So what is an imperative? Imperative basically is things that leadership must do. The senior leaders, the senior managers, anybody who's leading the change, here are the 6 areas they must focus on if they want their transformation to succeed. Now, same like I said earlier, these 6 imperatives and the 9 anti-patterns are not from a book. They're not copy pasted from somebody's post or from LinkedIn. These are things that I have gathered from my own personal and professional experience, and they may or may not apply directly to your organization, but at least from my different conversations that I've had with other leaders, a lot of this is common ground that can be seen across a wide variety of organizations. All right, so let's jump into it. The 6 imperatives. So here are the 6. Um, the first is the leadership's role in setting the vision and communicating. Second is funding the transformation. Third is being the change themselves. The fourth, which is building accountability. This is extremely, extremely important. Building accountability. Fifth is about creating a learning organization. And last but not least is leading the cultural change. So let's dig into them. The first one. So this is where, the leaders, they set the vision and expectations of the transformation. So in the transformations that I have been part of, initially there are fewer people involved. The leaders who are involved, they're thinking through, okay, why are we doing this transformation? A lot of people that I've come across in transformations, they feel that the goal of transformation is to start using agile practices, but that's not the case. Agile or any other format is basically a way to get there. It's a tool, it's part of the journey. But the goal should be something else, right? And the goals typically are to become more effective, to become more efficient, to cut down on unnecessary expenses, to make sure that they are able to, in a timely manner, respond to changes in the market. Those should be the goals. So whatever the goal and outcomes that the organization is looking through for, they have to create a very clear, succinct, easy to communicate vision with the expectations. And not just creating the vision, but making sure that it becomes a shared understanding of people. So basically, so the initial set of leaders who create the vision, they will then bring more people who are going to be your change agents and your team that is going to be the ambassadors of change, making sure that they understand it as well, so that they can communicate to the rest of the organization that's going through the change. The other thing that I feel the leaders should do is reduce any noise. Right, a lot of times what we hear a lot of noise but not enough signals. Leaders should reduce the noise and increase the signals. So what does that mean? Communicating through town halls, communicating through other channels, your internal social media. If you have a magazine that comes out every quarter or so, using that. But leaders are the ones that need to make sure that they're defining the why and also creating a sense of urgency. Without that, things are going to go south. So there you have it. The first one is setting the vision and communicating. And part of communicating is also ensuring that communication is happening upwards, downwards, and laterally, right? And only leaders can help do that, because other people who are part of the transformation, they only see one part of the transformation, but leaders are able to see holistically of all the moving parts that are happening in the transformation. So they need to set the vision and make sure that everybody understands. Next is funding the transformation. Now you might think, Toby, but this is very basic. Anybody who's going to start a transformation will definitely have funds for it, right? I mean, why are you even talking about it? Now, how many times have you experienced when a project has started and somewhere in between there is a big question mark on whether there is still funding or not? And if there is a funding problem, the project suddenly kind of freezes or stops, and the momentum is just halted. I have been part of so many projects where, while the project is in motion, suddenly there is a change in the funding. They've taken funding from your project and put on some other project, which now they feel is more important. And because of that, people cannot stay on bench for long. And then people move on to other projects. So all the momentum, uh, the tacit knowledge, and the inertia is now gone. Now at some point in future, when the money is reallocated, by the time this the whole momentum is gone. Some of the people who were doing an excellent job, they're gone, all the knowledge is gone, so you're now starting fresh. So that can be really bad. So leaders should think that transformation is not a project, it's a journey, and they need to fund the whole journey, right? Really understand what is going to take, how much investment is going to take, how long it might take, and being pragmatic about it. And then also thinking lean, right? Using the right people and resources at the right time, instead of just front loading everything, right? And then last but not least, value streams, right? So if it is a project has a start date and an end date, but value streams are more perennial. So leaders must fund the project in a more value stream perspective. Let's jump to the next one. As Mahatma Gandhi said, uh, be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. So I have experienced and noticed and observed that leaders often talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. They will say things, they will talk in an agile way, but their own operating way is not agile. They're still doing a lot of command and control. They are not embodying the values and principles of agile. And some of you put in chat earlier that it's a mindset change. Absolutely, a transformation is a mindset change. So imagine if leaders don't embody the values, will the people embody the values? No. Whenever there is stress, you might teach them agile ways of doing things. But wherever there is stress, whenever there is a lot of demand, whenever there's a high priority, high severity cases or things that need to happen, it is very easy to go back to the old ways of doing things. And this is where leadership really can make a difference. They can say, it's okay. It's okay. Let's deprioritize X, let's prioritize Y, but let's keep our rhythm. We cannot go back to the traditional ways of doing things. So, a real life story. I used to work with a senior director, and this person was involved in the agile leadership. This person was one of our sponsors, and he went through the same training as everybody else did in the program before the transformation. In fact, this person went through a leadership training as well. But then whenever any sales related or proposal related information was being gathered, he would tell people, don't ever send me a draft PowerPoint deck. Send me the final one. Don't waste my time sending me drafts. Now imagine this is the person who's telling people to work in an agile way, but then he is a person who is not does not want to participate in giving feedback, who does not believe in collaboratively working with people, who does not foster or encourage people to fail fast, learn quickly. How can he tell people to do that? Right? Ideal thing would have been where, you know, hey, John or Raj, here's what we put together based on what we are trying to do, based on this client. We know this is their problem. This is going to be our approach. What do you think about it? So imagine if the leader gave feedback early and said, oh, I like this, but you think about X? Or last year we did a project where we used Y technology. Do you think you want to use Y technology here? And things that the team that might have missed something, they can now incorporate those ideas, right? But instead of that, you're saying just send me the final. So the team members are not going to be psychologically safe. They're going to fear that I wonder what Raj or John is going to think about it, and they're going to be scared, and they're going to play it very safe. And that's not good for transformation, right? So be the change. If you want your teams to change, you do it first. Emotional intelligence plays a very important role as well. What is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is about self-awareness. Who am I as a person? Who am I as a leader? Understanding some of the gaps and some of my strengths, and understanding how I may come across to people is extremely important. And once I have that self-awareness, I also develop an awareness of other people, and I might be seeing things in other people. And then that helps and leads you to improving your relationship with others, improving how you act and interact socially with people. And that plays a key role in transformation. And then micro habits, right? Any big bang change, right? New Year resolutions don't work really well. There is a lot of study that has been done in the last few years about micro habits or atomic habits or small habits or tiny habits rather. So basically small changes. So if leaders can exhibit that they are incorporating some of these principles and values in the way they are working by making small changes, micro habits, then people are also going to be start doing micro habits, tiny habits, small changes. And by being transparent, by saying that, listen, I am also vulnerable, I've never tried this before, I'm used to getting status reports, but I'm willing to come to your demo and see how the demo goes. I'm being vulnerable. That is very powerful when leaders do that. All right, I'm going to move to the next one, which is building accountability. So this is extremely important. So accountability really sets the tone. So during any transformation, you have your vision, then you have your roadmap, then you're going to have all the people who are going to help you lead that transformation. And these are the people who are going to really help evangelize agility throughout the organization. There are going to be a lot of questions. There is going to be a lot of resistance. There are a lot of people who might be upset because of, hey, I was a project manager for all these years. What do you mean you're going to make me a scrum master? I don't want to be a scrum master. I was a manager before. So a lot of people have their paradigms, their beliefs, and the transformation involves changing those beliefs, or at least influencing so that those beliefs can slowly change. So that involves a lot of structural agility. What does structural agility mean? So maybe in the past, your hierarchy was a certain way, right? It is, hey, we have a leader here, and three people report to the biggest leader, and each of these three people have five people reporting to them, and each of these five reportees have teams for them. And basically it's a chain, right? It's a chain of command. But Agile, prefers more flat organizations. So whenever these chain of hierarchy is changed, there is going to be a lot of pushback. So leaders must make sure that this realignment goes well. How many times have you noticed that a director is changed or a senior manager is changed, and the whole team's operational style and operational approach and even throughput changes? Now, the important thing is to also incorporate new ways of measuring, new ways of setting goals, and that a lot of organizations are doing OKRs. So we have the transformation objective, plus you may have your sales objectives or your production objectives, etc., and kind of making that together. So you have those objectives, and then what are the key results we are trying to produce? And then making your frontline people accountable for that. Now, obviously, some things will not go as planned, some things will slip. There are going to be some small failures, but then having one on one conversations with those people and saying, hey, uh, here's what we had set for ourselves. This is what you committed. I understand that you're running about a month behind, and that is okay as long as we catch up, because those goals are still there. Those, you're still accountable for those goals. So let's have a conversation about how can we solve those problems together. So assessing to understand what those obstacles are, and either solving it or getting the people or the resources to solve that is a better way of doing things, as opposed to just saying, okay, you slipped, too bad, I'm going to replace you with somebody. Instead of that, if you're building accountability, you are going to get better. All right, so we're going to move to the last one, which, oh, second to last one, creating a learning organization. So this, I think a lot of modern organizations really understand this well. They have, they, part of their core organizational value is a learning organization. There are people, there are trainers, there are courses, there is budget allocated to learning. These are organizations that feel that unless we are constantly improving our skills, we will not be able to constantly make changes to meet the market needs, right? 2 years ago, there were certain technologies, certain processes available, and you all are trained in that. But now, there are newer tools available, newer ways of things happening now. Making sure there is budget for sending people to conferences. All of you are here today in the conference because you have a commitment to learn. You want to see what else can I learn and take back to my organization so that I can improve my organization. Now, there are leaders who feel that, that's a waste of money, or they feel that it's up to each individual to learn it. We don't have to do that. Let them learn on their own, right? It's not our job to treat. So if the leadership mindset is that, and if they're trying to save money and time by not funding or by not creating a learning organization, they are going to experience failure soon. People are going to leave, they're going to go to other organizations. You cannot have innovation unless people are learning. And one other point I want to make here is that, you need to transform from managing people to leading people. Leading is different than managing, right? Management is a more old style. Hey, Ram, this year, here are your goals, and you must hit this target. And here are your six reportees. I want to make sure that all those six reportees, all their reports are good as well. So that's more managing. Leading is more like, hey, Ram, our department's goal is this. This is the objective that we've set for ourselves, and here are the key results that we're looking to do. I'm very curious to see and hear your thoughts about what can we do to get there, and then supporting Ram in getting there, right? And then sharing feedback. So feedback loops is extremely important as well. And making sure that the feedback loops are working well is going to be important. It could be something as simple as improving communication through some of these tools which are available. And I for right now I don't remember the exact names, but for example, Teams, where you can have an informal conversation with another colleague. You don't have to do everything through email or face-to-face communication. You have a quick question, you can just go to chat and ask a colleague, and you can also give feedback to them in real time. So creating some of that is also going to be very important. um, Last but not the least is lead the cultural change. Now, I talked about organizational change management. Organizational change management cannot be an afterthought. Anytime a change is happening, changes are happening in people, process, and technology. Now, unless there are people, and unless you focus on the people who are going to bring the transformation in process and technology, who are going to be the people who are going to be using and consuming those changes, unless you focus on them, your transformation is not going to go well. So, paying attention to the culture, paying attention to where are we getting the resistance, what is the resistance, and not being upset about the resistance, saying, oh, I don't know why these people don't want to change. Instead, oh, they don't like the change. Let's dig deeper. Let's send out a survey. Let's talk to some people during lunch. What do they like about the change? What do they not like about the change? And what could we do differently? So paying attention is going to be important. I talked about creating a flat culture, organizational culture, and then paying attention to emotional intelligence. If you are going to come across as somebody who's leading the change, but you are in a nasty mood, you are unapproachable, whenever somebody comes to you with some challenge or a problem, you send them away to somebody else, then your transformation is not going to go well. You actually have to roll your sleeves and help the people. Yeah, remember that picture in which we had a square, a triangle, and a circle. um, in that part, in the triangle part where there is chaos, where things go south, this is where you need to help to understand the culture and make proactive steps to help through that. So that brings us to all of the imperatives. Let's look at a simple change management approach, which I feel really works well in this scenario. So there are many change models out there. There's a satire model, there is a scarf model, there is Proshi's art car model. Um, I'm a little biased towards quarters 8 in this scenario, because I think it makes it extremely clear as to what is a leader's role in bringing about this change. So quarters 8 is also has been used in scaled agile, um, and parts of it have been used in so many different organizations. So what is quarters 8? So this is the 8-step process for leading change, and leaders play a critical role in all the stages, right? The first one is creating the climate for change, like even before the transformation begins, making sure it's the right people, making sure it is funded, making sure that senior leadership is ready to support and move the transformation forward, right? So leaders invest in that even before the change happens. They want to ensure that resistance to change is minimized. You cannot mitigate it completely, but at least minimize it. Next is engaging and enabling the organization. This is where you're communicating the vision, you're empowering your frontline people to take action, and you're supporting them through that. And then whenever there are quick wins, you're creating the quick wins because you're making smaller targets which are much easier to achieve than a huge target. And when that happens, celebrating that as well. Next is, you might start with one project, and now that you have success, kind of replicating that success across the organization, and then making it stick. This is very important because a lot of times people go back to old ways of doing things when people are stressed. And a lot of times organizations, leaders, and people become um, too confident when things are working, and they actually stop paying so much attention, and slowly anti patterns start trickling in. So if you want to make the changes stick, make sure you have the right metrics set up, make sure you have retraining available for people. So all these things play a huge role. And as you can see, leaders have a step and a role to play in each one of them. With that, I want to um, call you to action, and I want you to think for yourself on Monday when you go back to work, what can you do to influence the change and lead the change? Now, you don't have to do something huge. As Martin Luther King says, if you cannot fly, then run. If you cannot run, then walk. If you cannot walk, then crawl. But do something to move forward. Help the transformation move forward. If you want to learn more, here are some books that you can learn from. Um, the Rise of the Agile Leader is a great book. Multipliers is another great book. And there are tons of other resources available as well. And with that, I I want to bring it to Q&A. Over to you, Twisha.
Yeah, Toby, we already have one question, I guess. It's in the main chat window. How do I know that after transformation, what is its effectiveness? Is it the agile maturity metrics which can tell me so?
Yeah, give me one sec. Let me just roll back my slides. Give me 1 second. Uh, where did it go? I cannot find my window. Give me 1 sec. Sorry. Okay. So I'm sharing the screen. Yeah. So the question: how do I know? Where did it go? Sorry. Okay. How do I know after transformation what is effectiveness? Is it the agile maturity metrics that can tell me so? So, Prem, the answer to that question is your organization. What were the goals and objectives that you set? What were the outcomes that you were looking for? So, transformation is a journey, and in my opinion, it's never ending because um, change never ends. Change is the only constant. Now obviously you cannot go on forever. So if your organization had set some vision for the transformation, and they clearly had those OKRs in place, what the objectives are and what the key results are, if those were set in place, so you by you I mean you and your team need to evaluate your progress against those OKRs. So for example, if one of the goals was um, to get 30% more market share in your space in the next 2 years. So in those 2 years you're moving towards that goal. So at the end of the 2 years you're going to look at, hey, 2 years back what was our market share and what is our market share today, and have we met that goal? Because doing Scrum or doing Kanban is not the goal. The goal is to become more effective. The goal is to become more efficient. So that's the goal, right? So that's the metrics that I would say you should look at. And obviously there are so many agile related metrics that you can look at as well.
Thanks, Toby. We have one more question. This is from Vishnu. Any suggestions on how to change the appraisal oriented culture in an organization?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Vishnu. That's a great question. So if you if your organization has this annual review, which happens once in a year, so the bad part of that is that any feedback that you have, you are having that conversation in the end of the year. And oftentimes, so for example, let's say I'm the supervisor for somebody called Lakshmi, and throughout the year I see that Lakshmi is not doing a great job, or she is struggling in a certain area, or she had a lot of unexplained absenteeism, or I heard complaints from her manager. But then I'm not going to say anything to Lakshmi. I'm going to wait till the end of the year and then tell Lakshmi. In my opinion, that's useless, because you waited a whole year to have that conversation with Lakshmi. The right thing to do is to have more one-on-ones on a more frequent basis. The second thing, so specifically to answer your question, Vishnu, uh, organizations should reduce the number of people who a person um, does the reviews for, or leads from a growth perspective. If I have 20 people, and in addition to my job, I will not be able to give them proper guidance. But if I have less than 8 people, chances are I will make some time with them, right? Maybe I meet Lakshmi every 2 weeks for coffee, and then I give her feedback saying, Lakshmi, I heard great things about how beautiful your demo went. The clients were extremely happy with that. And also, if there is negative feedback, then you give that as well. And then you have coaching conversations with them, so they feel that they can trust you and you are leading them in the right direction, instead of just pointing out things that are going wrong, right? You need to mentor them and help them to grow. So it has to change from collecting evidence, collecting information, and just giving it to HR, versus taking an active role in building them so that they can be better leaders tomorrow. Right. So that would be my suggestion. I hope I answered the question. Any other questions?
Yeah, Toby, we have a few more actually.
Yep.
Maybe we're already on the top of that, but maybe I'll just take Sandeep's question. Once you notice the anti patterns in a team, how to make the team aware about those anti patterns as a coach?
So Sandeep, what I would say is that small, minute things here and there, uh, I would say that my guidance would be to tackle them head on, right? So let's say your team is following Scrum, and there is one particular team member who doesn't talk much at all during stand up, doesn't give the information. So that's a one off. You can have a conversation with that person, and let's say you're the Scrum master, right? You can have a conversation with that person and say, hey Krishna, the purpose of the daily stand up is to really understand where you are, so that other people also understand and they can make changes to their commitments. And I noticed that you barely ever say anything. Um, so what's stopping you from being more open, and basically encouraging that person to talk, right? So that's an anti pattern you can nip in the bud in the smallest, most organic level. Now if you are seeing anti patterns, which are you are seeing a trend. So for example, your Scrum team, every sprint there are 2 or 3 stories that get dropped, that are committed to but are not delivered. Every sprint this is happening. It's a trend you've seen over a period of time. Then that anti pattern needs a more systemic way of dealing with it, right? So my answer to your question, Sandeep, is evaluate whether it's a one off or if it is a trend. Understand what is the impact of that anti pattern, and then you deal with it based on that. If you are the coach, my my recommendation is not to directly go and make the changes to the team, but actually work with your Scrum master so that your scrum masters become better at identifying these anti patterns and solving them, right? A lot of times that trust and relationship gets spoiled when coaches go directly and start solving problems. So even if you notice anti patterns yourself, have those one-on-ones with your scrum masters and have conversations saying, you know you know hey Raj, I saw in your team this. Did you observe it as well? What do you think? What is the impact? What can we do? Right? And make them involved in that. So don't kind of command and control, but make it a joint effort. Okay, I'll stop there because we are over time. But we can go take another question. I can stay back longer if needed.
Sure, Ravi. Probably we just have two more questions, which I see. Maybe
Sure.
we can take the one from Prati. What would be your one advice or suggestion for all the coaches who are working with traditional leaders who struggle with letting go that command and control
That's
model?
a that's $1 million question. So one thing that I would say, and I'm not saying that's the only advice, but one thing that you I would say is that um, be patient, because any kind of change takes time. Um, it's easy for us to judge people, like those of us who have been part of an agile journey for a long time. It's easy for us to judge and say, Jayaprakash always acts this way, right? I don't know why he acts that way. Instead of that, really try to understand from their perspective, right? I mean, what is their experience? Have they ever experienced agile? Have they been in an agile team? Have they been trained properly? What has been their experiences? Because if they have always felt that command and control gets them the result, um, and they've never experienced the other way, then coach them, right? I think coaching is the answer for that. um, but then you cannot, unfortunately there's no silver bullet that can solve that problem, because each person, each incident, each team is going to be different. But my thing is, start with the why, start with the understanding first. Try to empathize, or put yourself in their shoes first, and then start. That would be my advice.
Thank you, Toby. Can we take one more?
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
here.
okay. So, how can we encourage the team to do self assessment? As my organization is having both half yearly and yearly reviews, but members have an approach. Sorry, but member have approach. We will get what is already decided. Then why to put their efforts there? Ravinder,
Mhm.
this is Ravinder's question. I'm not sure whether I read it out correctly.
No, I
Um,
think I got it. I got it. So this comes to culture, right, Ravinder? This comes to culture, and this part is assumptions, right? And a lot of organizations have this assumption that no matter what goals I put, no matter how well I try, um, leadership is not going to give me a raise, or is not going to give me a favorable review. So why should I even try? Why should I work harder? Now, it's a mindset, right? You have a that people can have a closed mindset, and that could be a result of the ill treatment or actual things happening for a long period of time. It could also be that it's just become ingrained in that particular organization. So when a new team member comes, other people who've been there for a long time, they might tell people, hey, don't bother working hard here, you'll go nowhere, right? And so that's the guidance they got from people who've been there before. So changing that will take time. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be overnight. But then that's where your one-on-one conversations will have to help. So changing the mindset of people to say, hey, what do you think about it, right? You think of yourself as a brand. You think of yourself as a product. You think of yourself as somebody who wants to grow in the next 5 years. You set some goals for yourself. Unless you evaluate yourself where you stand against the goals that you have set, you will not know where you are. So encouraging them and helping them to understand that they are not doing this because of a part of a ritual or because the leadership wants it or HR wants it. It's for you. Now, for example, let's say I'm changing the context. Your doctor said that, listen, you have to eat more vegetables, you have to drink more water, sleep at least 8 hours a day, and you need to do at least 3 hours of exercise per week. That's the goal that the doctor set for you. You're going to see the doctor after 2 months. Unless you keep a journal of where how you're doing against those goals, chances are you are not going to follow that. Who gets impacted? Is it the doctor? No, it's you. It's your health, right? If you're sleeping 5 hours, and you're not exercising and you're not taking the medicine and you're not doing all those things, it's your health being impacted. It's your career being impacted. So you need to do that. Okay. So that's my response. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Toby. And thank you for taking the time out to answer all our questions as well. It was an awesome
Absolutely. Yeah.
session.
Thanks
Okay.
everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for attending this. Bye bye.
If I leave, I just leave the session.